Hey everyone, welcome back. So this is going to be the fourth video and probably the final one, or maybe one more, probably one more. What we're going to be doing today, today would pick up from where we left yesterday. It means we already have at this stage we have we've got, I'm sorry, Vectr deployed, we've got Caldera deployed, and then we've got both solutions working as expected. We did show you how to get in Vectr the third video. If you've not been following this series, I recommend you check the first, second, third before this recording. So we did show you how to, excuse me, create assessment we created for M Prime, and I showed you what it looks like in terms of the attack map. Cool stuff. What we're going to be doing today basically is going to be around the automation. So I did mention that I've got an automation that can fetch this, what we see here on Vector, and take it over to Caldera and create like an adversarial profile in Caldera and also start an operation of that adversarial profile. Now, why would you want to do something like this? For the most part of it, you're trying to automate your detection capability program. You're leveraging Vector as your maybe adversarial emulation planning platform where you do the planning, you have all that gone in here, and you are using Vector Caldera, sorry, as the emulation platform where you're actually emulating the known threat actor, either APTs or malware. You want to scale at speed in such a way that you don't have to create it here, then come in Caldera and start selecting the abilities to create that adversarial profile. So the automation is just going to go in Vector, read in Vector, fetch that. Once it sees a tag, fetches that, then go over to Caldera, create that adversarial profile, create an operation of that, and start the operation. I will show how that stuff works today. Now, later in the future, we might get to a point where we would do beyond this. That would be like a third phase, maybe a MIPS integration, whereby the automation looks at MIPS, checks for MIPS events with a particular priority tagging, extract them, group them into an adversarial profile, create that on your Vector platform. Then the automation also picks that and goes to Caldera and start the emulation. This is a powerful solution that I'm actually putting out here for you guys. Again, this is not something I'm working on alone. I've got guys who I must give credit to who've been helping in this whole process. And probably won't be the best idea to call the links, but I'm just going to give them credit for the help so far. We're hoping that once we get to a certain stage, this can be something that works. But today, you can just pick up what I'm showcasing you today and use it. It's going to pretty much work for you. I'll be glad to probably on one-on-one share some of the resource if you reach out privately, but I'm not going to put some of this resource out there yet. Okay, enough with the chat. Now we've seen both platforms, Caldera and Vector. Let's go over to the script part. So we would see what that looks like. Go over to my ID here. A lot of cleanup has gone in actually to get it working today. So I'm not going to have to go through all that process, but I'll walk you through the structure. So first we've got this convert vector to Caldera part, which is actually the major script. We've got these models actually locally. Again, being able to read these models and use these models when the script is actually trying to execute. Then we've got like the Vector API clients locally as well. A lot of cleanups are being gone into this thing beyond what it looks like fresh out of like GitHub repo. So for this to work. Now going into the script, I think I'm just going to explain the script logic itself. I won't be touching the models and the Vector API client. You can always get those out and look it up for yourself. So let's walk through briefly. I wouldn't touch on the part where I'm actually importing a bunch of these libraries because again, you can always look that in a script and understand what it's doing. But most importantly, you see the vector GraphQL connection parameter or can params loaded there or imported there. Then let's look at the core function. So for the core function, they've got a bunch of functions. First function, we're looking at the Azure login. level. This is not really relevant to you because I'm running this locally for now. So that won't really be a case for you. We're also setting log level. Again, you would need to point this to where you want the logs to be stored locally. In my case, it's stored on my MacBook. So I should be sure that this script has read write to that log storage. If not, it's going to break. That's the first one I want to put out there. Great. Then let's go into the config. It's going to fetch a bunch of configs. So I'm fetching the Caldera API URL. For this case, I'm actually putting anything out there. But again, the best practice would be to store the secrets not in the config file, but store them somewhere external, like an Azure Key Vault or maybe even a secret manager, then pull them from there in the script. So, but here you see I'm setting config. I don't have the actual values here, but you see the key names there. The values are stored in the config for now. So I'm fetching a few key names: Caldera API URL, Vectr, the target DB in Vectr. I'm going to show you that. The automation tag as well in Vectr, adversary objective ID in Vectr, the API keys, then the default operation planner. This would be in Caldera now for the operation. Default operation fact source, I showed you this previously in Caldera. The default group as well, that would be group red, showed you that also. Automation loop back duration, that would be how often do we want to look back for this automation to run. There's a whitelisting going on here as well. That's not for you for now anyways. Let's look at the config. So you would see I referenced a few stuff like the Caldera, excuse me, the Caldera API URL running on this, the Vectr API URL. Then you would see the target DB. This is the DB we created, if you remember the third video, in Vectr. Okay, then the org name as well in Vectr. Automation tag completed. I'll show you this. Then we also have these values from Caldera. Then we also have the secret. So I'm actually using local secret. So I'm referencing a Vectr API key that was created. This would be the key ID, and the secret has to be in the structure, same as for Caldera. Then automation loopback and whitelisting. I think this is what the config looks like. Back into the script. Then we would skip all this bunch of try, and that's not something that you should put your head around. Let's just go into a bit more on the structure. So Caldera operation. So that would be like trying to fetch from Vectr and create an operation. So this basically function to actually create operation. So we're referencing these values that we've set in the start. So be sure that those values are defined. Again, if they're not defined, you're going to run into issues. The planner ID also showed you that, the source ID. Then we've got this going to reading adversary ID. Again, what we are trying to do here is basically trying to take what we see in Vectr, which would be, I did mention the mapping. The mapping in this context, we're looking at in Vectr. Remember, if I go to Vectr quickly, we've got assessment, we've got campaign, then we've got test cases. So what we have mapped, or what I've mapped for this, is basically the test case maps to in Caldera what you call an ability. Again, that mapping is done correctly. Then the adversary here maps to what you see as your again, it could be campaign, as in the context in this campaign and brand. I've got all these, but the way it works now, it's going to be the assessment name. So the assessment name with everything within the assessment name maps to the adversary in Caldera. So that's what basically the script logic is doing there, trying to verify the mapping, then trying to be sure that that mapping is done correctly. Not going to go into, this is not a programming class anyways, by the way. So, but if you see this, or when you get to see this, you'll understand what's happening in the background. Then we'll go to the Caldera adversary. We're creating an adversary here. Then I would go to the ability, or they show you the ability and what it maps to. Now, one unique fun fact here is, again, I'm leveraging Mytha. So if you see what's happening here, the script should be able to read what we have. If I go in one of them, for instance, what we have as a technique ID here, and use that to verify on Mytha what should be in Caldera, usually the commands, what we call the commands. So it's usually, it's going to read this. If it's technique ID supplied, use that and read the Mither, verify what the command should be. Again, this reading will be done in Caldera because we already have an atomic locally mapped in Caldera. Then all that reference is what's going to look like in terms of the data output for the JSON body. I'm not going to touch on that. Then we're getting abilities. Now we're going to be using the script to read into Caldera. You see the value being passed there as well as the key. Then reading Caldera, check for the mapping done locally, which is the atomic locally on Caldera. Use that to populate the command and what it should be. That would be like an assessment ID value locally mapped in Caldera. Then after which we have the assessment to operation conversion. Again, I already explained this. Once the adversarial profile is created in Caldera, it should be able to start an operation. That's what the goal basically is. Excuse me. Again, we need to read out those key values and also have that done. Then we have a bit of constant here. Again, this is something that I've already shown you from the start, again, how that mapping works. We're not leveraging the keyboard, so I pretty much comment most of those part out because you don't need them for this particular demo. And I think that's what it is basically. Apart from that, there's nothing pretty much else. This was me doing a bit of debugging, so I'm just going to clean up all this, my bunch of random comments in the script. Okay, great. So this is what it looks like. Now we're going to see this in action. I did create the short usage.env just to show you how it works. But first, before I run the script, again, the workflow, you need to have an agent hooked up. If no agent hooked up, it's not going to start, it's not going to run because an agent needs to be hooked up in Caldera first. But just to show you what it looks like in terms of, there are options to actually pass in terms of attributes for the script to execute. We can use the help, which I just used here. It's going to show me the options. I can run debug, I can print the debug shell to show the logs, then as well as I can pass an assessment ID on the fly. It's going to check. I'll show you how to get the assessment ID, or I can just use the automation, which means it's going to look for a particular tag. So let's start with the first one, assessment ID. Let's assume I want to pass an assessment ID. How do I get that? I can get that from excuse me, from Vectr. That's manually. So I'm going to right click on this and I will inspect element. Usually the way it's built, with the new version even more easier, you would see here I've got the href. It's pointing me to YouTube environment. Then we see the assessment ID there, 11. Now if I go to the next one there, that value changes from 11. This next one is going to be 12. Give me a second. I'm just going to show you that yeah, this one is 12. So just to be clear, that it differs. Again, we want to be sure we're targeting the one we want to target. I'm not going to be using the 11 one. I think I'm going to use the 12 one. It's a bit shorter in terms of the number of test cases, so I'll work with this. Great. So once I have that value, which is manual, what if I want to do this automated and I don't want to be inspecting to view the assessment ID? All I need to do, excuse me, is to actually, if I click on this drop down, already there is a tag here set completed, but by default you won't have that tag set, so you probably will find something like this, no tag. So I've actually passed in the variable for that specific tag, excuse me. You will see that in the config. So the tag that I'm leveraging is what's completed for the automation. So it means if I go in here and I set a tag completed, once I have this script automated, it's going to, at the set time for the cron, it's going to look at Vectr, connect to Vectr, see any assessment that has a tag completed, then it's going to fetch that and create the corresponding adversary in Caldera, as we already explained or discussed. So for now, I'm going to do it the manual way. So I will untag this just so I can show you what it looks like. We'll do it the manual way with the ID, which we verified to be 12 in this context. Great. So first thing first, let's hook up an agent on our Caldera. Just to show you, I do not have any of those here. Just so you don't think it's not here. So I don't have any of these as an adversary in Caldera at the moment. So I'll go over to agent. Let's deploy an agent quickly. Would use the sandcat. At this stage, I haven't really updated the sandcat to bypass AV, so I'm just going to show what it looks like fresh out of the box anyways. That's something I might do, but I probably might not do it. Maybe I might just do it on the fifth video. Um, who knows? I'm gonna copy this, go over to my target machine. I'll just paste this first on the notepad so it's clean and the formatting is done correctly. Then I'll grab this from here. Again, I've told you there's several ways you could have this delivered to the target. If you're doing actually a proper red team, you won't be doing what I'm doing like this. No, this is not going to scale. It has to be done the right way, right? Okay, I think it's broken. This was why I was trying to not paste directly. Okay, I'm just going to quit this. Interesting. Okay, so I'm going to bring up my notes pad again and try this again. So I'll copy this and I'll paste this here. Okay, seems to be working fine now. All right, so I'm trying to get my implant hooked up to my Caldera. So it's trying to download. You can see that point where it's downloading from the Caldera URL. If it downloads, then I can actually run this hidden. It's going to pop up like a notepad. Then I have my callback if I go to my Caldera. Again, McAfee is saying that I stop this stuff, but let's see if this guy is actually telling the truth. Let's go over to Caldera and we can see that that guy is not actually telling the truth. I do have like it's hooked up, it's live, and it's trusted. So McAfee, sure you're doing this stuff right. Okay, anyways, that's for another story. All right, great. So we've got this thing hooked up. Now we can go to the next phase, which is to trigger the automation. So if I go over just to show you again, I do not have that yet here. So, but what happens when I go over here? I'm just going to have it run. So what this command basically is doing is I will pass, in my case, I'll be trying this 412. Then I'm passing the config, then I'm just printing the debug, then also on the shell. So you see what it looks like. Again, it's going to do a bunch of stuff and it's going to show you it's finished. If I go up to this, you'll see everything that was collected from that particular campaign in Vectr. This is like a JSON that was extracted. Then this already has been shot into Caldera. So if I go to Caldera and I'm just going to refresh this page, I should see an ability automation testing. You can see it right there. So let's open it up. You can see exactly what we have here in the test cases. If I can open this up, the test cases that we documented here is exactly what we have in Caldera. Now, I didn't have to do this manually. So that's the fun fact about something like this from an automation standpoint. We can also see that it gives me the executors for each of these. For the most part of it supports PowerShell, so I'm pretty cool and good to go. Now, if I go into operations, you will see that there is an operation that was automatically created. I did not create this manually. The automation takes care of it, like I told you. So if I open it up, we would see that it's running. In fact, the first test case had executed. Again, I was trying to pop CMD. Then I have an output for that. And the second test case is running currently, screen capture. This is automated. Now, what if I want to manually maybe create the operation but manually trigger this? I can also do that on the script. I can just change let's see, it's one value. I'm just going to find it a second. I'm just being lazy, don't mind me. uh, Great, autonomous. So this is that value that I just need to change. It means if I want manual approval, all I need to do is change this to 0. It's going to create the operation. Then I'm going to have to manually trigger the operation one after the other. Again, depends on how you want this to work for you. But in my case, for now, it's just 0, 1. So it's automated. Going back here, the third case is running. This is encountered an error. Again, it seems like there's an issue with the PowerShell on that Windows machine. We experienced this challenge the last time, so it's still the same issue. The PowerShell keeps breaking for some weird reasons. I think it's broken. sure the agent is no more trusted. I'm going to refresh this just to see it's still alive. Great. So, but again, we've been able to show you that that operation was created automatically. It started and it ran a few test cases before it crashed for some weird reasons. I guess I will change the executor to maybe CMD to see how that looks like. But this is what I want to showcase today. The fact that this can be automated. Now, there are still a few things that are being built to enrich this. One of the things that I've been working on would be to have MIPS integrated in such a way that MIPS event can be extracted to create assessment on vector, then the automation creates corresponding adversary in Caldera trigger that executes, run, shoots the report like a Power BI dashboard, enrich that with whatever CM or whatever EDR solution you're using, then being able to show you like your detection capability on the fly. You can tell how many of these techniques that were executed you caught, how many of them you got visibility, how many of your rules mapped correctly, or maybe there will be need for fine tuning again. This is what the project looks like. I think this is the fourth video. I'm going to have to stop this video here, but again, if you want this to extend further, I would probably ask that you let me know. I will be glad to build some more time and have some more stuff done for you guys. Anyways, thanks for your time. I hope you love the content. Please do not forget to like and subscribe. And I will not put out most of these things, but if you want access, let me know. We can actually talk about it. I'll be glad to share with you, so you'll be able to also have something like this working for you. Thank you for your time and have a great one. Bye.